Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Tyler Sickmeyer with us today. He's CEO and owner at Fidelitas, SendToWin, and 2 years ago started this San Diego Sharks sports team in the professional basketball league of TBL. He has a bunch of other startups that he started over the year. He's also advisor and board member at various organization. Very successful guy, and also an ex athlete, probably still up to this date, practices some sports. So it's going to be a fun one. This podcast is brought to you by podpire.com. If you want to start or scale your podcast, monetize it, go to podpire.com. Tyler, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Hi, Charles. Thanks for having me on, and it's great to be here. Like you said, I'm blessed to run a variety of businesses. My primary focus is the marketing agency Fidelitas, a full-service agency headquartered here in San Diego. We serve a variety of both business-to-business and business-to-consumer brands, helping them with everything from PR and paid media to retention marketing and SEO and everything in between. And our big thing there is serving our clients as a strategic partner, helping them figure out what's keeping them from scaling and then helping them to scale with measurable impact. And as you mentioned, I also own SendToWin, which is a media company. It's a biweekly newsletter during the summer, weekly newsletter during the winter, covering business news from a Christian perspective. And then we also own the San Diego Sharks professional basketball team, which is coming up on our fourth season here in about 6 months. So just a few things in the fire.
Right. Let's start with your background as an athlete. What position did you play, and what lessons have you brought forth from your athlete career to the professional and business side of things?
Sure. So I was blessed to play professional basketball for 15 years. I joke, I played in pretty much every three-letter league that does not rhyme with NBA. So I played in the IBA, IBL, ABA, TBL, a couple of short stints overseas, and some great experiences along the way. And was fortunate to win a couple championships we won back-to-back championships with my team in the IBL and IBA in rural Chicago, the Kankakee Soldiers. And then I moved out to San Diego, and I played a forward, but it's interesting. As the CEO, it's my job of my current businesses to help put people in the right position to be successful. When I was playing, my position was flexible. I'm a naturally undersized power forward, so I would either play a lot of center and just be quicker than the center and strong enough to still hold my own down there, or I would play small forward instead of power forward, and I would be fast enough to stay in front of them, but I would give us a size advantage. So as more of a tweener, I would rarely play my natural position. It would more play wherever the team needed me based on the lineups that we were putting out on any given day. So I played a lot of small forward early in my career, and quite a bit of center later in my career as well. And really the same mentality goes into business, right? When we talk about maintaining a team first atmosphere, and we have a saying at Fidelitas that winners keep score, Charles. So if you're good at what you do, you want to keep track of the results and be able to share those. And so we're big on finding ways to produce measurable wins for our clients. And it really is a team atmosphere. We celebrate wins together. When we get a big hit for a client, or we have a big win from an ROI standpoint for a client, we celebrate that. If something's wrong, we all feel that. Like we win and lose together as a team. And I think that culture is contagious. And we've really tried to mirror that. And even though we're an agency, we try to operate like a team. And a lot of that goes back to the fact that we have quite a few former athletes. Not all of them played professionally, but at least high school sports, and they understand what it means to compete as a unit, to work together for the greater goal of the team versus individual goals.
Right. And in the professional world, I think the field is more leveled up. I think you can force your way to the top more than you can in the NBA. Am I right in saying that, like, yeah, if you don't have the genes, even if you work really hard, I don't think you can make it to the NBA? I mean, you could state like Steph Curry or Iverson as example of pure hustle, but there's very few that make it without like the gene and the physical advantage in the athletes world, right?
Sure. So everybody's in a different spot. I'd say we all have unfair advantages in life and unfair disadvantages as well. Right. And so for me, if I was 3 inches taller, my career arc would have looked very, very different at 6'9" or 6'10" versus being 6'6". Right. And so I'd like to think that I maximize my potential. Now that said, could I have maybe done things a little bit differently had I sacrificed if I had sacrificed my businesses and my professional career outside of basketball? Could I have made it farther? Could I have played in a few more leagues around the world? Probably. Could I have sacrificed my family for that? Probably. I'd like to think I made the most of the opportunities I had, especially in comparison with the opportunities I had in business as well. But you're exactly right. Business, I think, is a lot different. Again, there's still, we call soft skills and hard skills, right? We can always teach you a hard skill. We can teach you, for example, we're interviewing for a junior graphic design position right now. We can teach you Adobe Suite. We can't teach you to be a good person. We can't teach you to communicate well. You either have those skills inherently or you don't. And that's why I think it's important to develop those early in life. And perhaps I'm wrong in that you can't learn them in your 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, but you're less likely to, right? Like, the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. There's some truth to that, right? And so by the time people get to where they're professional and they're in their 20s and 30s, a lot of times, personality-wise, they are what they are. They can always learn a new hard skill. We can always teach you how to use. I mean, heck, you think about the tools that we use today, Charles. You probably weren't on StreamYard 15 years ago, right? Like, so you think about the different social media tools that we use today. I promise you, no one had a TikTok 15 years ago, right? It didn't exist. And so I think that the hard skills can evolve and can change, but the soft skills, I think, are so important to develop at an early age. And if you do, and then I'm a big believer in the saying, just keep showing up. And if you just keep showing up and putting in the work, and you keep trying to network, and you surround yourself with the right people, and you keep trying to do right by people, and you work hard to do right by people, even if you're not always successful, people will respect that. And I think you'll get quite a few more opportunities in life and in business in general.
Do you think ex-athletes and current athletes have an unfair advantage as CEOs?
I don't know about an unfair advantage. I'd say it's a great experience to have. I'd say if you have experience competing on a team and winning on a team, and I would put in the same category, Charles, I would put marching band. To me, marching band is a better tool for leadership growth and experience than an individual sport like golf or tennis, where you're competing for yourself by yourself. When you compete in a sport for yourself by yourself, you learn how to show up every day and put in the work and to compete, but you don't necessarily learn how to be coached as a unit and how to sacrifice your stats for the greater good of the team. Like, that's what I love so much about watching the U.S. basketball team in the Olympics this summer. You've got Kevin Durant, who for all intents and purposes is one of the best scorers of our generation. And he's reduced to setting screens, which is basically he's reduced to getting other guys open, the other guys being LeBron and Steph. And so I think there's that when you have the ability to acknowledge your role and an openness and a willingness to do whatever the team needs you to do in order to win, that's really special, and that's hard to teach. And I think, again, if you've been in a team sport at a competitive level, or even if you did band at a competitive level, and you understood, hey, I'm not playing so loud as to drown out everyone around me. It's not about me, the trumpet player, or me, the drummer, or whatever. It's about the band. I think those skills translate and communicate quite well into corporate leadership.
Right. Now, let's speak about your entrepreneurial career. Like, was it a natural choice for you to start a business after your professional athlete career was over? And was it natural for you to go in the agency route? I see a lot of people going that route, which in my opinion is probably one of the best. When you start a business, you get data on a bunch of different clients of yours while making money. So tell us about that beginning of yours and the why, the how, and if you think it was still a good decision to get in that path.
Sure. So my story is a little bit more unique in that my athletic trajectory and my business trajectories kind of took off around the same time. And so while I was so to backtrack a little bit, in college, I actually started my first business doing Christian concert promotion. We did large shows and small shows around the country. And at the time, Facebook was only open to college students. And so we had an unfair advantage. And I was the first one in our industry to use Facebook as a marketing tool, mainly because I was the only college kid that they were selling these big arena shows to. So by default, I had an unfair advantage because the other promoters couldn't access Facebook. I could at that time. And I was also very early to the game in text message marketing as well. And so we had a couple of unfair advantages there. Those unfair advantages led into a reputation for being really good at the marketing side. And that led into consulting small and medium-sized businesses. And that's where Fidelitas was born and has grown over the last 16 years. And a lot of it because of Fidelitas and because of what Fidelitas has done, that enabled me to continue playing basketball regardless of whether or not the checks cashed, because it wasn't playing pro basketball was never about the money. It was more just about the love for the game and the chance to continue competing at a high level. And so I was blessed to be able to do both simultaneously. And that's honestly why I ended up outside of Chicago was for basketball, but my agency benefited from being there. Likewise, when I moved to San Diego, I continued to play, but the Fidelitas benefited from that along the way as well.
Can you make good money with agencies since you've done quite well for yourself? You acquired a basketball team. Can agencies actually scale? What was your strategy when you started the agency? Do you think it could be your main cash cow, or was it something to get insights out of and invest in higher scale businesses?
It's absolutely capable of being someone's main source of income. I mean, it's still ours. So if you look at the model of what we're doing, Fidelitas is the engine, and everything else are different pistons on that flywheel for us. But Fidelitas is the engine for growth for everything. You can absolutely be successful as an agency owner. I think why we've been successful is just our commitment to doing right by people, and then when you consistently keep showing up and doing right by people, you tend to have a little bit of a snowball effect, and it continues to grow and scale. And that's what we've been able to do. And I still think our best years are ahead of us. This is not a hobby that sits in the corner and kind of pays for our other endeavors. We're still actively working to grow and scale Fidelitas and to serve as many clients as well as we possibly can. And we see a lot of potential coming forward because more and more brands, I think, are looking for outside partners, especially given the cost of employment these days. So we see a lot of opportunity ahead for on the agency side. Absolutely.
Tell me about the acquisition and slash starting the San Diego Sharks. Did that require big upfront investment? And do you think a common person investing in acquires a sport franchise or starting one, do you think they can get a faster ROI than 10 to 20 years?
So a couple of things to unpack there. I'd say with every business you're involved in, you want to have an unfair advantage of some sort, right? So, and sometimes that unfair advantage is, hey, I've got a family member that's going to write me a large check to start it. Sometimes that unfair advantage is, hey, my uncle owns a warehouse where I can store all this product, or my buddy's dad already owns a factory in China, so I can get this made over here and I don't have to solve manufacturing, and I get favorable terms on the product. Or sometimes it might be, hey, my mom works at an agency and the media buyer will help me out after hours for free or whatever. But I'd say almost every business that starts has some sort of unfair advantage, at least the ones that actually have sticking power. So I'd ask yourself, if you're going to start any sort of business, including a sports team, what's your unfair advantage? Our unfair advantage is that I played minor league basketball for 15 years. So I've seen good, bad, and very ugly on the minor league sports side. I've also seen it done really well. I've seen how it can work. And I have an agency. I have this marketing engine that knows how to put butts in seats and how to drive results. And so that was my unfair advantage. And that's where, and again, having a Rolodex, having a coach that I had previously played for and trust to run the basketball operations. I'm not out here picking players. We still have players on our team that are old enough that they played with me. Like, so we have my former teammates. Some of them are still on this team, but they don't answer to me, their former teammate. They answer to the coach, and I trust the coach because I've played with them. So we have some unfair advantages that way. I'd say to get back to your question with how the team came into existence, the team that I last played for in San Diego folded. We saw a chance to bring a team here and run it well, and we run it on a very different business model. So we actually have free tickets and free popcorn every game. As you can imagine, in San Diego, there's a lot of different things to do, especially for families. And I said, we have something that's very fun to do, but I can't necessarily compete with the San Diego Padres or Legoland or SeaWorld or the beach, right? So what can we do that will put us in our own category? And that's that we're going to be the best, most affordable sports entertainment for families in San Diego. And we are. And so our games, it's more like a party that happens to have a professional basketball game. We've got little fun games going on during the timeouts. Parents are pushing kids on scooters, and there's hoppity hop races, and the mascot's out causing mayhem, and everyone's having a great time. And because we actually draw decent crowds, we have a lot of sponsor support. And so that's how our model works and why it's a little bit different. But again, every situation's different. Again, I would not advise a sports team as a get-rich-quick scheme for anybody. It is, I'd say it's certainly a long-term investment. And I also say, just like any business, you've got to know your market. You've got to know what you're signing up for. And you've got to, in my humble opinion, I would recommend going and talking to others that have done it before and ask, hey, what didn't you expect that came out and punched you in the mouth? Right? Go find out what you're in for before you sign up for it. And then you can avoid a lot of those surprises that cause so many businesses to fail in the first 5 years. And so that's a big thing. I think it's funny because we have Fidelitas, which is a growing, self-sustaining business. Fidelitas is very stable. I could go on vacation for a month and Fidelitas would run just fine. Versus the Sharks, I can't be gone for a week yet. We're still in the baby stage with the Sharks, right? And so they're in two very different places. And I think it's important as leaders to acknowledge where your business is at and what it's going to take to win and be successful with each of those businesses.
What's your strategy to win? You said you made playoffs various time. What would be your strategy to win the cup, which I guess would attract a load of people?
It would help. So, I mean, really, the way the playoffs work, these are short series in the TBL. The longest series is 3 games, right? And the first round is a single game elimination. So these aren't long series. So it's better to be healthy and hot than not, right? And so part of it is trying to build team chemistry. We try to keep our core players back year after year and have some chemistry there that we can bank on. And then we also have another unfair advantage that we're working on tapping into, and is that we're in San Diego. So if you put yourself in the mindset of a 25-year-old minor league basketball player, and you can live anywhere in the country and get paid a little bit of money to play basketball, we're better than here with the beaches and the climate and everything else that comes with that out here in San Diego. So we're trying to do as good of a job as we can with recruiting and bringing in great talent. And I know we've got a great coaching staff and we've got a fun atmosphere to play in because we have the best attendance on the West Coast for fans. And so we're in a pretty good spot there. And I think we're going to continue to get better year after year.
Very cool. Now, tell me a bit more about what your schedule looks like nowadays. What habits are you working on to make your life better? Is it like a strict calendar? When do you train? When do you meditate? Like, what does a day in your CEO life look like?
Sure. So it's pretty rigid. I mean, I pretty much stick to my calendar. I joke that I'm like Ron Burgundy, if you remember the movie Anchorman. If it's on the calendar, I show up, and if it's not, I don't. And so for me, my personal habits, I try to get up early in the morning. Most days I'm up by 4:30. I try to read in the Bible first thing in the morning and get a little bit of word in. I walk my dog, and then I go get my own training and workouts in. And then after that, I'm straight into the office and tackling whatever needs to be handled for each of the businesses. I have a phenomenal assistant that keeps me on track of everything. I don't know how I would do it without her. And then after that, I try to cut out at a decent time and still go home and be dad. And that's the important thing, I think, especially for any parents listening in. Anyone else can be CEO of the Sharks. Anyone else can be CEO of Fidelitas. No one else can be the dad to Easton and Cannon that I'm called to be, right? And so I'd say never trade what something anyone can do for something only you can do. And so my priority first and foremost is to be a great dad, and then let the chips fall where they may with the businesses.
There you go. And weekend golfing or daily on the golf course?
We've got a simulator in the office, thank goodness. So that's where I get to play for the most part. But I am taking my dad out this weekend, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I need to buy one of those here. Okay, now tell me about the podcast that you have. Why did you start it? What was the angle? did it meet your expectations so far?
Sorry, beg your pardon. Which are we talking about? Your podcast or
Your podcast.
so we currently are on pause with our podcast.
Okay.
So we and I apologize. This has got to be our last question. I have a hard stop at 1. But again, for the podcast for us is it's all about content creation and adding value. We are I'll tease this. We are looking at bringing it back in a slightly different format. So I do enjoy the podcast format and conversations with people like you and having great conversations. But again, really excited about some of the stuff we have in store from the Fidelitas team in regards to content.
Right. Well, Tyler, thank you so much. Where can people find out more about you?
Absolutely. Easiest place is fidelitas.co. It's on my name here in the chat if you guys can see that. Fidelitas.co. Or you can just Google Tyler Sickmeyer. I promise there's only one of me and you will find me. But great to connect with you.